And hello, welcome to And Now the Good News, our webcast where we look at some, frankly, not so uplifting stories and find that element of uplift to bring you to where we are. And today we've got a great guest, very fitting with our theme of finding an uplifting story out of one that could be tragic. Jeffrey Deskovic is with us here in the studio. Let's look at a background regarding him, and then you get to meet him, and please ask questions and make comments. See that blue and black cloth that Jeffrey Deskovic carries on his arm walking into the Pace University Law School graduation? It's called a hood, and you can't put it on until you've graduated. Doing that has had challenges, to say the least.
One of your classmates understands the impact of the criminal justice system's treatment of the accused from firsthand experience.
The law school dean spoke of how high school student Jeff Deskovic was convicted of raping and killing classmate Angela Coria, a crime he didn't commit. Still, he served 16 years in prison and was only freed when the Innocence Project proved the DNA of another man who'd gone on to kill someone else showed that that man had carried out the crimes for which Deskovic served. Lawyers helped Deskovic get his life back, so at Pace Law School,
Jeffrey Deskovic,
he got to put that hood on.
You know I'm not here, right? If it's not for your work.
But his emotions got deeper a moment later. An old friend, a former staff member at the Innocence Project, wiped the tears from his face.
She presented my case 3 times, and if it wasn't for her persistence in that, I would never have been exonerated. I wouldn't be here right now. My sole purpose with the degree is to free other people who are wrongfully imprisoned.
To do so, he pointed out, he's still not finished.
I now have to start studying 10 to 12 hours a day in order to pass the bar exam. A lot of people fail. I have no intentions of taking it a second time.
Now, before all that study, there is time to celebrate, which is what is happening here. Let's point out, Jeffrey Deskovic has won double-digit millions of dollars in settlement money because of his wrongful conviction and incarceration. Now, he could have just taken the money and relaxed somewhere. Instead, he says he's got to do this, and he's also used that money to set up a foundation to help the wrongfully convicted. But for now, it's celebration here at Via Garibaldi's in White Plains. I'm James Ford, PIX 11 News. And that was obviously our story a few weeks back when you graduated. And with us here is Jeff Deskovic, who's a friend. We love Jeff. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
So happy to get together yet again.
It's just great that we get a little bit of time to talk with you. And I got to tell you, the comments are coming in like crazy. Please keep them coming. Many people saying congratulations and saying what a great story this is. Why don't we start with that? I mean, the point of this show, And Now the Good News, as we've pointed out, is we take some themes that can be really sort of depressing and find uplifting elements. You are such an element. Talk about how you feel about this, how you've been able to make something really great out of a bad situation, and how challenging that is for other wrongfully convicted people.
Sure. So, well, my life is all about just trying to take the negative that happened to me, the 16 years in prison from age 17 to 32, and turn it into something positive. And so, I've been able to do that by becoming an advocate, working with other advocates. We've passed some reforms here in New York. Maybe we'll get into that after. And we're starting the foundation where we've freed 7 other wrongfully convicted people, while our 8th case out of Andrew Krivak was just overturned. He's awaiting retrial. So, lots of uplifting stuff that really wouldn't have happened had I not experienced what I did. So there's that part of it. But in terms of how difficult it is, for people wrongfully convicted in general, everybody has after effects of this experience. It's common to have PTSD. There's a social stigma where you're really innocent. Okay, you're innocent. Didn't even rub off on you by being in prison. You have to adjust to a new world. Technology is different. You have to try to repair relations with family members who may have visited little to no times. Have to make a new social circle. Technology is different. I didn't have the GPS, internet.
Right.
We didn't have live streaming, James.
Like right now.
Like right now. Yeah. So lots of challenges, and just to pick up the pieces and make something of your life. But I've been fortunate and blessed to have had opportunities along the way, and I've made some good decisions too. But I've worked real hard, and I've arrived where I am. But it's not such a simple thing.
Sure. And one thing, in New York, people who are wrongfully convicted can eventually seek compensation, as you've done.
Yes.
Talk a little more about this. Not every state's like that.
This is a great point. So, firstly, New York does give compensation, and that's great. I do want to point out, though, that a significant problem here in New York is that there is no immediate assistance offered to exonerees when they're released. So there's an average of 2 to 3 years between exoneration and point of compensation. So I believe it's the state's moral obligation to provide things like housing, cost of living, mental health, doctor care, job training, job placement, classes on technology, access to public transportation. None of that is provided. You're just released, and that's it. And you're not even eligible to get services from the reentry organizations, who are all parolee and probationer-centric. That's their mission, not exonerees.
Let me put that. Let's break that down a little bit. In other words, if you're someone who has committed a crime and you serve your time, good for you. Then you come out, there are services that are available to help a person to readjust adjust to general life.
Which I'm all in favor of, just so it's clear.
Sure, but if you were someone who's been incarcerated and you didn't do the crime, you're saying there's nothing for you when you get out?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, in addition to that, though, there are a lot of states that do not have compensation at all. So yesterday I was in Pennsylvania, making the rounds at the Pennsylvania legislature with Vincent Moto, who did 10.5 years for a rape he did not commit in Pennsylvania. Drew Whitley was with me, who did 18 years for a murder he didn't commit. Neither one of them have been compensated. We were making the rounds in the legislature, trying to drum up some support for them and all exonerees in Pennsylvania to get compensation. There's 24 states that don't have anything.
Right, that's amazing.
Those men were all destitute. They were in horrible condition. They were, they have psychological after effects. So because of that, they haven't been able to return to work. They're getting disability, making $750 a month. Unlike me, not being able to have the mental strain relieved from me as to how to pay bills. I've been able to return to school. I can spend my time doing advocacy work. They haven't been able to do any of that, and so I empathize with all exonerees that haven't been compensated, hence my taking some time off from bar prep to work towards that. Because, I struggled so much, James, for 5 years when I was released with the first 5 years of being with nothing, really ending up in a homeless shelter and, not being able to get gainful employment, not knowing where the next dollar was coming in.
Wow. No, this is, again, I just think it's important to spell this out super clearly. In nearly half of U.S. states, if you've been incarcerated for a crime you didn't commit, you're totally innocent, and you end up spending time in prison, you get out, you get nothing, there's no compensation, you could end up being similar to how you were when you first got out, almost homeless.
Correct.
For something you did not do.
Yes, and I want to add to the absurdity, right? Theater of the absurd here. So in Pennsylvania, for example, also, there is no they don't have automatic expungement either.
So if you are innocent of the crime, it's not necessarily the case that it gets cleared from your record.
Correct. So like Vincent Moto, for example, who I was with yesterday, he shared with legislators. I go to jobs and I have a bachelor's degree with a focus on business, and I get hired, and at some point they do the due diligence and they look up my record, and then I have to try to explain. My record's not expunged, so I have to try to explain to them I'm innocent, and they, listen, just, the liabilities, is something going to happen while you're here? We could get sued. Not so much. You're innocent, we gotta let you go.
Wow. Okay. And
there's one thing that's worse than the next.
And let's point out a few things. We've got plenty of people chiming in. Thank you so much for doing so. Angela Andujar, Valerio, many people congratulating.
That makes me feel so good. It's so warm.
And people like Tiffany Barker saying, this is insane, what we're describing right now. She says it happens too often, and the fact that it happens to anyone outrageous. Plenty of people. I mean, there's so many comments, we just can't read them all, but thank you all for chiming in on this.
I do want to make one quick comment on that's the outrageousness, and then I'll get to your next question. So, in New York, there's been 250 exonerations. Okay, we just passed last year the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct, right? The first ever in the country independent oversight board for prosecutors, but keeping in mind the prosecutorial misconduct, major cause of wrongful conviction. Recently we got some amendments to that bill. But, Governor Cuomo, I want to call him out on this. Governor Cuomo, while initially signing the bill creating the country's first Commission on Prosecutor Conduct, it just hit the news that now all of a sudden he's backing away from it in light of the District Attorneys Association of New York filing a lawsuit in court challenging its constitutionality. He's now saying he's not going to defend it in court any longer, and neither are some of the other key political figures. So we're relying now on the Assembly to try to defend this law. But the big thing is this. I don't want to get into the weeds, okay? Governor Cuomo no longer supports. He's publicly saying, I don't support the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct, the same one that I signed, right, into law to stop wrongful convictions of New Yorkers. I don't support the commission anymore.
Right. The bill, to be clear, the bill was holding accountable prosecutors
yes.
who might have withheld evidence, for instance,
correct,
that could exonerate someone.
Yeah, exactly, or made an improper opening statement, improper closing argument, done anything that was inconsistent with the rules and ethics, right, that have resulted in wrongful convictions, or even that has infringed on the free trial, a fair trial without getting into guilt innocence. Yes.
Okay. So that legislation passed. The governor signed it.
Correct.
But now he's doing if not a 180, he's definitely doing like a 90-degree turn away from
yes.
it. Okay. But this is why we have programs like this, to highlight issues like this.
Yes.
And you've been able, through your foundation, in fact, I think we've got maybe a little graphic regarding the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation, to draw a spotlight onto issues like this and some other measures. Talk about those.
Sure. So the foundation, which is part of the broader coalition, it can happen to you. We've been able to, in addition to the commission, we've got discovery reform passed in New York this last year, in which we went from being one of the worst states on discovery, being clear. Discovery has to do with information that's in the file, sharing information between the prosecutor and the defense lawyer, so both sides can have information. Previously, now that's automatic. Previously, what it was that the prosecutor has to turn over prior statements of witnesses, and that was often happening on the eve of trial.
Right.
So they would hide the ball. It's not a trial. It's not a search for truth. We're talking about trial by ambush now.
Right.
So that's one of the measures that we passed into law.
So prior to this becoming law,
yes,
a prosecutor could have information that could exonerate someone, could show that someone did not commit a crime, but only bring that forward, and sometimes in a massive document dump, right?
Right.
Where it would be hard to find this information that would exonerate the person they're prosecuting. They could withhold that until the day before trial.
Yes.
That's over.
Yeah, that's over. Now it's automatic. It's right away. Then after whatever they have immediately, you have to turn over. Then there's 15 days after that, and then there's another 30 days they get after that, assuming there's a lot of documents that they don't have. Anything past that, they have to apply for a court order now. So that's changed. And and withholding evidence, has been a common tactic that's led to wrongful convictions. And that's why the commission was so important, James, because if the prosecutors weren't following the rules previously, which was they have to turn over the exculpatory material, if they weren't doing it previously, then even though we've improved the time limit and made everything automatic so that they don't have to fight over what's being turned over, if there's no enforcement vehicle in place, they can still break these new laws also. That's why the commission's so important. I lost 16 years, James. Doesn't that count? What about the other 257 New Yorkers? I guess it doesn't. What if a plane, I want to know, what if a plane fell out the sky at the same rate at which these wrongful convictions are happening? You think there'd be a big investigation and we'd know why, and then some immediate steps would be put in place to prevent it? I think that the answer should be and is yes. Why is it not so important that we did time wrongfully?
No, a clear analogy, I must say. And this is yet another way in which your foundation and your activism generally is affecting change. I can't think of a better case of a bad story, truly bad, that has turned quite good. We've got about a minute left. Tell me what lies ahead. We saw you get your law degree, but you're still not a lawyer just yet. You still got to pass the bar.
I have to pass the bar. I have to take a similar test regards to New York law. They do a character and fitness interview, like an exit interview, and then I get the law license.
My guess is your character and fitness are fine.
Absolutely. No, it's true. But I do have to gather a lot of documents, though, is what it is. But yeah, it is fine. But I'm just saying, up until I get the law license physically, I can't. I'm not a practicing lawyer yet. But I did that because I want to continue to exonerate people through my foundation. I just want to be the lawyer in some cases, and I want to use the law degree to further other policy initiatives. And look, continuing to make a difference. That's what I'm about.
And you are living it. You're voting with your feet, as they say. Jeff Deskovic, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And a pleasure to have you all join us as well. I mean, we've just been getting so many comments and a lot of support for you. And I'm sure once this webcast ends, you'll go and look at all of them, because there are many, many, many great things being said and many people tuning in, which we thank you. That's it for today for And Now the Good News. We'll see you next time when we have another guest that lives this whole story of how some bad news can really turn into something really important and special and uplifting. Thanks for joining us.